Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
And welcome back, everybody. We are going to talk about golf today, but if you don't play the game or watching it on TV doesn't interest you, don't go anywhere because this gentleman has blended the game of golf with spirituality and a certain mindset that can really refocus who you are, even move your life forward based on books that he's written. And interestingly, he's taken the content as being the senior editor of Golf Tips magazine and transferred it to the book. We'll go into more detail on that. This gentleman is the director of instruction for the Medallion Club in Columbus, Ohio. Golf is his life, and he's back with us, John Decker, on the program. Hey, John.
Hi, Steve. How are you today?
Very well, very well. And I'm still fascinated how you took those articles from Golf Tips magazine and then transferred them into your books. And the beauty of that, aside from an amazing message, is that it's a short read. Many of us don't have quick attention spans. I might Google something. I just want to know one little thing, and it's a whole big article. And that's done to keep you on the page so you can look at advertising. It drives me crazy. This is fantastic. It's, it's a page or two, maybe two and a half, three, of different insight of spirituality, the game of golf. Amazing. How did your journey being the senior editor of Golf Tips magazine begin?
Well, Steve, it all started right after my first book, Golf is My Life, Glorifying God Through the Game, came out. I started doing a lot of podcasts. I was on Golf Talk Live, which is a podcast with Ted Odorico, and he had me on and he allowed me to promote my book. And so I got to spend some time getting to know him, and he asked me if I would like to come on a regular feature that they have called the Coach's Corner. So every week I would come on with him, and I did this for over a year. Once a month I would come on his show, and so Ted and I became really good friends. Now Ted is actually in Panama City, Florida, so we're not in the same location, but we did meet up at the PGA show and became friends. And after doing the show for his show for a couple years, he reached out to me one day and said, "I've got a great opportunity. I'm going to purchase Golf Tips magazine, and I want to make you."
Wow.
First of all, he asked me what I thought about it. And I said, "Man, this is a great opportunity because he has his podcast to own a magazine. Now you have that media platform, and you have the podcast as well." And so I said, "This is a great opportunity for you." And so he went ahead and purchased the magazine. He asked me later if I would be a senior editor, which basically I'm not really an editor. I'm really more of a writer. He wanted me to write golf tips in golf, be one of his the top 25 instructors that they have for Golf Tips magazine. So I was like, for me, that was a great opportunity as well, and I enjoy writing. So writing golf material is kind of more like work because that's what I do every day. And I wanted to have the golf element. Obviously, it's a golf magazine, so I need to have that element to it. But what really drives me when it comes to writing is when I get in touch with the Holy Spirit and I can write the Christian message as well. And what I'm fascinated with as a teacher of golf is taking Christianity and taking golf and combining them and also putting life experiences. So I asked Ted, I said, I'd like to have an article and I'd like to call it Fairways to Heaven. And so he decided, I said, we're going to get some backlash from this and we're going to have some people push back on it, but I really think it'll do well. And we put it out there. I wrote my first article for it, for the magazine. It went out and we did get some pushback. We had two people that said they wanted to drop their subscriptions to the magazine, but we had tons of emails that came in that were positive, that really encouraged me. And so from there, we went on, and Ted, really encouraged me after that to go ahead and pursue it. So after doing this for about a year, I was like, wow, if I take all of these articles and put them together into a book, I have a second book. And so I decided I wanted the book to be called Fairways to Heaven. I wanted the articles to come from the magazine, and I wanted the one shot at a time. That was the subtitle. And basically, I wanted to show how in the game of golf, you play one shot at a time. And in the game of life, you live one day at a time. You can't live in the past. You can't live in the present or the future. You can only live in the present. And so That's where the subtitle came in for the book. And once I had been writing these articles for 2 to 3 years, I had plenty of material to go into the book. And then I just kind of put it in there. And when I read it from start to finish, I was like, wow, this really flows together really well. I knew that God had given me, sometimes I would write articles about things that happened in my childhood. Sometimes they were things that happened currently. But when I pieced them together chronologically, they all flowed from one chapter to the next. And Steve, you and I are cut out of the same cloth, because I am not the type of person who's going to sit down and read a novel. I'm not that kind of a reader. I like to read like more of the old USA Today bullet point, really short, concise articles. And so that's the way that's my writing style. And my writing style, again, is to have those elements in there of Christianity, golf, and life, but to do it in a way that you get the message across. And then the book will read more like a daily devotional. And that's what I'm
Wow.
hoping to achieve with the book.
Did you, John, need to change any of the content, or are the articles exactly how they were printed in Golf Digest?
Or Golf Tips
Golf
magazine.
Tips, I'm sorry.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's okay. Yes, they are pretty much word for word. There was a couple of things that I'm really some grammatical things when, we went through the editing with Golf Tips magazine and their editor, and then I used my own editor, Bill Students. And so he's a friend of mine from North Carolina that I knew, and it really did a great job. I had a great experience with working with him. And he made some of his change editorials, adding some commas and things like that, but nothing from a structural standpoint. I didn't have to really do anything. Now I did add new content. And you will notice that in the magazine, because at the end of each article, I will put like the July, August issue from Golf Tips magazine, like 2022 or whatever
Hmm.
it may be. But at the end of some of those articles, there's not anything. There's no mention of Golf Tips magazine, and that's the new material. And the majority of that new material is in the Phil Rogers tribute. So I wanted the reader to know this came from the magazine, or no, this is something that came outside of the magazine. There was one article that I did write, which is the color of the green. And that one Ted did not want to put that into the magazine, but I loved it. And I knew it was going to go in the book. And so that one is in the book, but there's no mention of Golf Tips magazine for that article.
Wow. Yeah. And now I see it
Yes.
as I'm thumbing through the book.
Uh-huh.
I want to go back to what you said. The title of the book, Fairways to Heaven, One Shot at a Time. And you mentioned the subtitle, One Shot at a Time. Last time we got together, you just referenced it again. But I want to share how impactful that has been in my life and in my journey. And this is just about 4 years ago. I met someone who said to me, "Why don't you live in the moment?" And I had no idea what she was talking about. And she said, "You live in the past, or you look at the future, but you're not living in the moment." And still didn't get it. Took me a few months to really, truly process it. And then I realized that the future is not guaranteed. We have no idea what's happening. Even in 5 seconds from right now,
Mhm.
anybody does want to talk to you.
Yes.
And then the past, we learn from it. Many of us marinate in it. Many of us, it causes depression just because of the way you look at the past. But when you look at, you're one shot at a time, one day at a time, one moment at a time, slice this right here. What's wrong? Right now. Perfect.
E-
Perfect.
Exactly. When I talk a lot about this in the book, and to me, this is the greatest skill of a professional golfer, an elite professional golfer like a Tiger Woods, for example, has the ability, and I watched the Tiger Woods documentary, and it was the very controversial documentary because it talks about all the good things, but it talks about a lot of the bad things as well. But one thing that he said in that documentary that or interviews from the documentary is he said he has the ability to compartmentalize his mind, and that is important to so that you're focusing on where you are at that moment. So he could have all these distractions, and he had a lot of distractions going on. When he was the number one player in the world. And some of them were good distractions and some of them were really bad distractions. But when he walked inside those ropes, he had the ability to shut it off and focus strictly on where he was at that moment. Now, if we as human beings were to take that into our daily lives and just put all of your emphasis on where you are at that moment, to live where your shoes are and where your feet are, wherever your feet are, if you will live in that moment, you will get the most out of your life, and you will live a life that you can look back on one day. And there's nothing wrong with looking back and reflecting. We all want to learn from our positive things that we've done in life and the
Sure.
mistakes that we've made. But when you're actually living the day out, is to be where you are at that moment. So if you're at work, you're focused on work. If you're with your family, you're focused on your family. If you're eating, you're focused on eating and spending time with your family. If you're worshiping, you're focused on worship. But in this world that we live in, we're distracted because we try to multitask. I see people all the time that are playing golf with their cell phones, and between shots, they're texting. And I'm like, you are not going to be a good player if
Mm.
that's what you're doing. And so, from a golf aspect, that's a terrible way to play. When I'm playing in tournaments, I shut my cell phone off. It goes into my bag. I don't pull it out until after my round. I don't want to look at it in the middle of the round because I might have some good news or bad news that might get my mind off of where I am. I try to live in that moment. And that's the most difficult thing to do in life. I struggle with it daily.
I was just
But
going to ask you how you do it.
well, the best way is I found through prayer and asking God to lead me in that journey,
Mm.
because a lot of times when you're living in the moment, you're living with God. God has you in that moment for a reason. It may not be, you may not, understand why you're where you are, but he has you in that moment. So if you're focused on that moment and you're giving your life over to the Lord, then you are going to receive more information from the Lord. You're going to receive more help from the Lord through the Holy Spirit, and you're just going to get more out of your life.
Do you really feel, John, that the best players on the planet today or in our history, they harness the power of that? Like you said, Tiger Woods,
Mhm.
it appears that he had some, amazing ability where I'm right here. I know there's hundreds of people around me, if not thousands. There's thousands, millions watching me right now, but I'm focused on the green, the ball, and the club, what I'm doing right here. Do you feel that for those players, that's the secret sauce?
Yes, and I talked extensively about this in the book. And one of my favorite quotes is from the book. And this is not a quote that I came up with, but I actually got this from a football coach at East Carolina University, where I went to school. I heard him say this in an interview, and that is, yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, but today is a gift from God. And that's why we call it the present. And so if you think about the present, that is it's like a present under your tree, but you're living in the present. So that word present means a gift from God, and that's where you are at that moment. And that's where you're to live. And if you can do that, you will get the most out of your life. I also have a quote in the book, and I cannot think of the author's name, but it was Rarefied Air. And he talks about Michael Jordan. And he said Michael Jordan's greatest gift was not that he could run fast and jump high and shoot a basketball. It was that he had the ability to live in the moment. And that to me, when I watched, that was from the Last Dance documentary. I love that quote. I used it in the book, or in the Fairways to Heaven book. And so I really believe, what, like you said, having that ability, having the mental mindset. Because if you watch a football game or a baseball game or a golf tournament, pretty much all the people out there skill wise are about the same. They're all really talented. They're all really good at what they can do.
Well,
But ultimately, it's that mental ability that you can't see. I can't see someone's mental ability when they're running down the field, but I don't know what they're thinking about. I don't know if they're thinking, or if they're reacting, if they're overthinking, underthinking. I don't know those things. So that mental ability to stay in the moment is critical in sports and
wow.
critical in life.
Wow. Um, Thank you for sharing that. I took the pen out. Can you give us that again? The present.
Yes. So yesterday is history. Tomorrow is a mystery. And today is a gift from God. That is why we call it the present. And the present is the present that's under the tree, or the present moment that you're in. That's what I love about that quote.
It really says a lot, and kind of reframes what we've been given. We take it for granted, and I think we briefly said previously when we got together that we should practice gratitude. Very important.
Yes.
Some believe that if you're grateful for what you have, the universe will give you more of that good stuff. But really being present and enjoying life from moment to moment, I believe once you figure that out, it really does change everything. And I'm going to laser this, but be honest, 14 days ago, I went to an ENT. I had a virus. I was sick. I never get sick. Where did this even come from? I had acute laryngitis. 14 days ago, the ENT said to me, you might not be able to talk like you do now. You might need therapy to learn how to talk again.
Wow.
You're on a 10 scale of severity, you're a 6. This is 14 days ago. And I look at him. I couldn't speak, obviously, and I couldn't speak even if I could. And I just went home and I sat down and I felt a little lost. What am I going to do? This is what I do. And I didn't think about the future. I just sat in that moment and I just said, well, maybe when my voice comes back, I'll sound different. Maybe it'll be okay. But I lived in that moment. But if this was me 5 years ago, I would have been in DEFCON 5. I would have been freaking out.
Yeah.
It would have been a day. And guess what? I can talk fine. I feel great. No issues whatsoever. Apparently he was wrong. No problems. But I honestly can say it. I had faith. I had
Yes.
faith. It's going to be okay. But again, it's a journey. It takes you time to realize those things.
Yes, Steve. And I think I've heard this stat, but I think like 80 or 85% of the things that we worry about in life never come true.
For sure.
If you think about that, that's a lot. I mean, that's like a lot. 80 to 85% of the things that you think about on a daily basis that
Yeah.
are negative, not that they don't come true. And so when they don't, what have you done with that time? If you spent all night stewing in bed over something that could happen at work, or something that's happening in your marriage, or whatever it is that you're, and then it never happens, you've wasted that time to rest. And so that's why whenever I have problems, the first thing I just give it to the Lord and I label it, whatever it is. I just say, Lord, I can't handle this. I need to give this to you. And there's nothing I've ever given him that he could not handle. And so I think
Mm.
that's the best way to live in the moment, live at peace, because God wants us to live at peace. Now, I realize you're not just going to float through life and not have anxiety and have stress and things that happen. And so giving that over to the Lord is the easiest way to deal with that.
How do we do that? Now, I know that's just a simple question, but I truly believe that many of us might be searching. We haven't connected with God, but we don't know how to do it. And we've
Mhm.
been programmed where everything is in front of us. You get in your car, you're going to drive. What are you going to do? GPS. I just do what it says. I'm there, done, finished. How do you do that? You have a challenge. How do you throw it to God? What
Well,
what do you say?
I'm going to challenge the listeners out there. This is for everyone out there that might be going through this. Is I challenge you to, if you're having questions whether there is a God or whether there's Jesus, I challenge you to say Jesus, if you are real, I have this problem and I'm going to give it over to you. I'm going to trust you and I'm going to give this over to you. And I'm telling you, if you do that, I'm not saying the problem would be solved in that moment, but God will find a way. And it might take a month, it might take a year, but that problem will work itself out if you turn it over to Jesus. I'm
Hmm.
a full believer in that. And that's the best way. And I'm not saying you're not supposed to test the Lord, but at some point you have to take that step of faith, because
Sure.
what I'm talking about is not a human body where it's something that's in the human realm. This is in the spiritual realm. In the spiritual realm, and I believe there's good and there's evil. And so you have to give that over. And I believe that Jesus is the Son of God, is God in human form, came to this earth, died for our sins. You turn your life, you turn your problem over to Him, and watch Him work it out. And I promise you, it will work out.
Mm. And I'm a firm believer in on the universe's time. The universe, God, whatever you want to believe,
Yeah.
knows better than we. And that's why you got to be patient. Whatever you need, whatever you're challenged by could be fixed like that, or it could take a little bit of time. But that's why because it needs to. And to your point, John, I believe in ask for a sign. Ask for a sign. I've done it. It works. It's mind blowing. It's specific. I've done it with my mom for years. She gives me support. She gives me, I'm skeptical, specific signs.
Yes.
I could go on 15 podcasts of what I've gotten, and it just blows my mind. But now I'm to the point where, hey, thanks, Mom. Cool.
Yes.
And maybe there's intervention from God as well in that. I don't know, but she
Yeah.
was very, very faith driven. So I bet you they're working together.
And I'm a
Somehow.
big believer in affirmations as well. I will write down affirmations of things that I want, specific things. Like one of the affirmations I wrote down, and I did this years ago, and this was when I'd come out of my divorce and I didn't have my own place. And I said, I will own my own home within the next year. And it came true. It didn't happen within the time that I wanted it to, but it did happen. And so that was an example. And every day I would read these affirmations.
Yeah.
And so now, the other day, I'd gotten to a point where I'd forgotten about it. And I looked back, and this was from years ago. This was several years ago that I was doing this. And I pulled it out, and I was able to cross off the list. I was like, yep, that came true. That came true. That hasn't
Wow.
come true yet. So
Mm.
there was a few of them on there that have still not come true, but I believe that they will come true because I'm speaking them out to the Lord. I'm giving them over to the Lord. And if there's something that's not, that God doesn't want for me to have happen in my life, maybe it's a relationship. Maybe, God, I want to marry so and so, or I want so and so to be my wife or husband. That may not be the person God wants for you to marry, but He will lead you to the person that you're supposed to be with
For
if
sure.
you're speaking those affirmations. I'm a big believer in that.
Yeah. And it sounds like you're describing manifestation with a spiritual connection. And to your point, you think that this is the right person for you. I believe, and it could be any situation. Listen to what's inside of you because your intuition was given to you as a gift and a very powerful gift at that. But also, we don't know why this person might not support you like this one will. And together with this person that God may bring to you at some point in the universe's time, you together could be such a powerful couple that will help others. We don't know. It's all, part of the plan. I believe there is a plan. It's part of
Yes.
the plan.
And part of the plan that I do is you want to ask first, then you want to listen. That's through meditation and prayer. And then you want to do the work. God expects you to do your part as well. I don't think I can't say, I want to have $1 million in my bank account. I want to have $1 million I can't say that every day without me doing the work necessary, for that to happen. If that's not one of my, I don't have manifestations or affirmations along those lines.
Sure.
But if whatever it is, if it's something that you're trying to obtain, you do have to do your work as well. And I think that's important as
Love it.
well.
Wonderful talking with you today, John. So much insight. I really
I
mean
enjoyed
that.
it.
And I did write down about the present, and I'm in a men's group, and they made me the shaman.
Oh, great.
And I enjoy it. And most of what I share, and I'm going to be sharing this in the group, in our group chat when we get off here, that stuff I just share from people like you. And I believe there's a reason for all of us being connected. Best way to learn more about you and learn about the books is simply going to your website.
Yes, my website is deckergolf.com, and the website has instructional videos on there. from all aspects of the game. But it also has information on how to, if you're interested in purchasing one of my books, an autographed copy, or if you just want to buy it on Barnes and Noble or Amazon, those links are on there as well. And the magazine, Golf Tips Magazine, they're running a special for the holidays. It's a 30% off. If you go onto my web, if you go to deckergolf.com and go to the bottom of the page, it says products you need. One of them is going to be, you'll see a QR code for Golf Tips Magazine, and it's 30% off. And
Wow.
If you scan on that, you can actually get a free issue. So you can kind of test it out first, and then you can get 30% off if you for members. And the QR code again is right there on the at the bottom. So, and
Awesome.
the QR code is golf tip, or the promo code, excuse me, is golf tips 30.
Thank you for that. They just told me we had a golf question. We
Sure.
have 30 seconds. I'm
Sure.
going to put you to the test. This is Frank, Deerfield Beach, Florida. Instant feedback, steve@gmail.com. He says, I recently retired, have started playing golf. How do you prevent slicing or hooking the ball?
Slicing or hooking, the quickest thing that I would tell you in 30 seconds is to check your grip. If you're a slicer, most people who are slicing and hooking, they're very handsy at the bottom of their golf swing, and they have a very weak grip. And so one time they'll flip it too much and it goes way left, usually with their shorter irons. The next time they'll do it with their longer clubs, and the ball can't, or the club face can't square up, and they'll slice it to the right. So making sure that you have a good grip. And if you go to deckergolf.com under the full swing, I have videos on there to show you the grip as well.
Amazing.
And thank you for the question. I love that question.
That's so cool. Frank, yeah, thanks for checking in, and best of luck to you. John, thank you so much. And somewhere along the line, we'll catch up again.
All right, Steve, God bless, and good luck with your men's group.
Oh, well, thank you, and all the best to you. We'll be right back.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.